What about case fatality? What India has achieved in this 9 months is an amazingly low case fatality. So our case fatality is anywhere between 1.4 to 1.5%. So as of now, we are discharging 98.5% people who are COVID positive, and only unfortunately around 1.5% people who are COVID positive are dying in India. So we have achieved a good case fatality rate, an acceptable case fatality rate. Unfortunately, Maharashtra is slightly high. So Maharashtra's case fatality rate is anywhere between 2 to 2.5, and it can go down further. So in Maharashtra, we still have work to do. And in Punjab, the case fatality is also high, and it's a matter of concern, and it needs to be sorted out. So case fatality rate all over India is anywhere between 1.4 to 2%. Maharashtra is slightly higher. But is it the same case in the entire world? No. You can see we in India, this black line which you can see, we are declining. But look at the other industrialized countries. You have second waves in America, second wave in United Kingdom, second wave in France, even our Southeast Asian neighbors, Japan, South Korea, all are getting second waves with the number of cases higher in the second wave as compared to the first wave. So our first wave is now decisively going down. What about second wave? We don't know, but the experience shows that rest of the industrialized countries now are in the grip of the second wave. Whether it will hit us or no, we don't know, but we have to start now looking at prevention measures because we don't want another wave and we don't want more lockdowns. What about mortality? As I said, kudos to our politicians, kudos to our management, kudos to our administrative healthcare workers, kudos to our doctors, our rest of the healthcare staff, our policemen, our municipal workers. Our mortality rate per million is around 109. Look at what it is for other industrialized countries, Belgium, America, Italy. It's almost 100 times. The mortality rate in India is pretty low. We are doing an okay job. Our mortality is around 109 deaths per million, which is acceptable. We can do better, but we are doing much, much better than other industrialized and richer countries, which are far, far richer than us. They are doing much, much worse. So being poor or being low and middle income has not stopped India from doing a great job in COVID and bending the first curve. Then what is the problem? The problem is this. We are now finding that new viral mutants are now propping up all over the world. This was the UK variant or the UK mutant, which is now causing huge number of case explosion in United Kingdom. What is this variant? This variant has acquired 17 new mutations in the spike protein as compared to the first virus which caused the first pandemic wave. And these 17 mutations are majority of them are in the receptor binding domain of the spike protein, because of which it has become more infectious. So this virus is 70% more infectious than the earlier variants which we have seen all over the world. Then its R naught is around 0.5 higher. So if the R naught in India is around 1.3, then the R naught for this UK variant is anywhere between 1.6 to 1.7. So it is definitely a more transmissible, a more infectious virus if it enters our population, which it has. We have reported around 90-95 cases of the UK variant. It has the potential to explosively infect many, many more people and cause a second wave. So this is what is the problem. Another variant which has been seen is the South African variant, which is also spreading very fast in South Africa. So we have bent our curve, but these are challenges. There are second wave in Europe and the West, in US, and there are now new variants which are coming out, which can also threaten a second wave in India. You can see this is what is happening in UK. Nothing from March almost up to January, and you can see this spike because of this new variant, and the second wave is almost 10 times bigger than the first wave. Secondly, we are also having issues with COVID reinfections. So there are people who got cured because of COVID are coming back again with symptoms or sometimes asymptomatic with COVID reinfection. So now gradually even scientists are saying that how long does natural immunity to COVID last? So if you completely recover yourself from COVID infection, how long will the immunity protect you from a second infection? And this study was just published yesterday in Nature Journal, and this is the Siren study which they looked at UK healthcare workers, and they found that if you are a healthcare worker, you get COVID, you recover from COVID, then over the next 5 months, your chance of getting a second infection is or a new infection is 84% lower than if you have never had COVID in the past. So the natural immunity arising from COVID infection is robust. It can last up to 5 months, but whether it will be lifelong or it will be long standing, we don't know. So the natural immunity which you get from COVID after recovery from the disease might not be potent enough. You might still be at risk of reinfection. Plus, there are variants circulating which can threaten the second wave, and that's why we need the vaccines. Before we start the vaccine, I'll just tell you how the virus behaves, because once we know how the virus behaves, we know how to give a vaccine and how to tackle the virus. So this is the SARS-CoV-2 virus. This is the spike protein. It attaches to the ACE2 inhibitor, comes inside the respiratory epithelial cell, uncoats, the DNA comes out, sorry, the RNA comes out. This RNA via RNA dependent RNA polymerase forms multiple baby RNAs which then produce structural protein. Baby viruses are produced and then they go out. So this is where we have to block the virus. We have to stop the virus here from entering the respiratory epithelial cell, because once it enters, it will start its pathogenesis and it will cause problems. So when we give a vaccine, what are we trying to tackle? We are trying to tackle the entry of the virus into the respiratory epithelial cell. Just destroy the virus before it can ever hurt your respiratory tract. So now there are almost 58 different COVID vaccines which are now with the regulatory authorities for approval. There are multiple types of COVID vaccines, but majority of those which I'm going to talk about are the exciting vaccines, which are the RNA vaccines, the DNA vaccines, and the viral vector vaccines, which have really astoundingly given us 3 candidates with phase 3 trials done within 11 months of the first case of COVID. So never before has an pandemic thrown out 3 good vaccine candidates within 11 months of the first case, and we should really salute medical science and the medical scientists who have brought out these vaccines for common men, common people. So what vaccines am I going to talk about? The 4 vaccines which are currently most talked about. Number 1, the mRNA Pfizer vaccine, which has shown that it has 90% efficacy to prevent severe COVID-19 or COVID disease. Second, I'm going to talk about is the Moderna vaccine, lipid nanoparticle mRNA vaccine, also an mRNA vaccine. It has 94.5% efficacy to prevent COVID disease. Then I'm going to talk about the vaccine which you and me are going to get, because it is going to be used all over India. It's the ChAdOx1 COVID-19 vaccine produced by AstraZeneca, Oxford and Serum Institute of India as a collaboration, and that has shown in phase 3 trials 70% efficacy. And finally, a passing mention on the Sputnik vaccine, which is developed by the Gamaleya Institute of Medical Sciences in Russia. Although the phase 3 trial has not been published anywhere, but the authorities claim that it has 92% efficacy. I'm also going to give a passing mention on the Covaxin vaccine, the Bharat Biotech vaccine, which is the second vaccine given emergency approval by Indian government. So by the end of this lecture, I hope I will answer all your doubts regarding vaccine, when to take them, how to take them, what are the contraindications. So let's head into it now. First, we should thank this lady, Kathleen Carrico, who in 1990 said that mRNA can be used to produce vaccines, and these vaccines can be used for infectious diseases, for cancer therapy and all other therapeutics as well. She is a Hungarian biochemist who migrated to USA in 1990. She put this paper about mRNA 32 years back. Can you believe that? And in 32 years back, she was saying that this mRNA will be a game changer in the future. It will help to develop vaccines. And now she is the one who is developing the Moderna vaccine in USA. So she was threatened with deportation. She was told that your thesis is too far-fetched. This science can never be put into action. And see, in 30 years, her thesis done 30 years back is now reality, and we have a mRNA vaccine which is available. So what are mRNA vaccines? A lot of people have a lot of problems and doubts about mRNA vaccine. So what is mRNA? You can understand that mRNA is produced by the DNA of the cell. This mRNA technology is used to produce the mRNA vaccine. What they do is mRNA of the spike protein is inserted into a lipid micelle, just like we do amphotericin B or doxorubicin, like liposomal amphotericin B, where amphotericin B is put inside a lipid micelle, or doxorubicin, where the doxorubicin injection is put inside the lipid micelle. Similarly, the mRNA which encodes for the spike protein of COVID, the entire spike protein for COVID, is put inside a lipid micelle so that it is stabilized over there. Then this technology also modifies the mRNA so that it is stable and it resides inside the lipid micelle. Then after overcoming all obstacles, this mRNA is injected into the muscle of the person, and it is trained in such a way that it finds the immune cells deep within the body. So from the muscle, it goes to the liver, the spleen, where our B cells and T cells reside, and they are the ones who can they take up this mRNA. Then this mRNA tells our body, it goes into the ribosome of the cell and tells the ribosome to manufacture the spike protein. So this does not enter into the DNA at all. Many people say that mRNA will start troubling the DNA of the body and it will get passed on to future generations. That doesn't happen. This mRNA vaccine does not enter the DNA of the cell. It only enters the cytoplasm. It is taken up by the ribosome and it tells the ribosome what protein to manufacture. The protein to be manufactured is the spike protein of the COVID. Once that is manufactured, that cell, B cell or T cell, starts showing spike protein on its surface. And once that spike protein is recognized by the body's immunity, you developed antibodies and T helper cells to that spike protein. So what we are seeing here is a medical miracle without modifying human DNA. It does not modify human DNA, and it has the power to treat many medical conditions in the future. COVID is just the start. I am sure there will be vaccines coming about HIV, Ebola, cancer, and many other diseases as well. So this was the first study which was published in NEJM, and this was the Pfizer vaccine, which is an mRNA vaccine. What is it? I have already told you, lipid nanoparticle formulated modified mRNA. So this lipid nanoparticle encodes this mRNA. This is stabilized and 2 doses are given. 30 microgram of this mRNA vaccine is given. And in the phase 1 and phase 2 studies, it was found that it develops robust neutralizing antibody titer and robust CD4 and CD8 helper responses to the spike protein which is seen on the surface of the cell. What patients were included? The Pfizer group included everyone who was more than 16 years of age. They also included people who had HIV, Hep B, and they also included people with other comorbidities. So it was quite a robust trial. You can see 44,000 people were screened. So this whole idea that very few people were involved in the trial, no. There were 44,000 people who were screened, 18,000 who were given the Pfizer vaccine, 18,000 who were given placebo. So you can see 18,000 is quite a robust number to tell us about the efficacy of this. Out of those 18,000, almost 97% of the people also received a second dose of the Pfizer vaccine 4 weeks later. So you can see it was a well conducted randomized controlled trial. This trial was done in US and in South America. You can see males, females, equal representation, almost 50% were females in this. Then you can see the demography was also okay. All the people in USA, whether they were blacks, Asians, Latinos, whites, everybody was represented. You can see there are a lot of elderly people. So there is always people say that elderly people were not represented. 40% of people were more than 55 years of age. Obese people were included. People from South America were included. And you can see once this vaccine was given, they also looked at the safety of the vaccine. So you can see people who got the Pfizer vaccine had many more injection site reactions, but majority of these injection site reactions were only grade 1 and grade 2. Less than 1% of people had grade 3 reactions. What were the reaction? Pain at injection site, redness and swelling. not much. Majority of them, almost more than 90% of people said it is only grade 1 or grade 2. Whether the Pfizer vaccine had systemic reactions? Yes, even those were checked, and they found that fatigue, headache, muscle pain, and some amount of chills were the systemic adverse events which were seen. But majority of those were grade 1 and grade 2. Only 4 people had serious adverse events which reported to the Pfizer vaccine, but majority of them was unrelated. One was shoulder injury, second was right axillary lymphadenopathy, one person has ventricular arrhythmia, but that ventricular arrhythmia was found related to dilated cardiomyopathy, and one person had right leg paresthesias. So majority of the all the 4 serious adverse events, none of them were related to the vaccine. It was just by chance that these things were seen. There were 2 deaths, but again none of the deaths was linked to the vaccine. One was because of cardiac arrest secondary to arteriosclerosis. So even the deaths nor the serious adverse events were related to the vaccine. So the advantageous thing was no COVID-19 deaths were observed in the vaccine arm. So you can see once 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine was given, the protection of the patient started 7 days after the second dose. So the first dose was given today, the second dose was given 28 days later, and the protection started 7 days after the second dose was given. And you can see over a period of 3 months, they found that those who did not get vaccine, 162 cases of COVID infection were found. While if you get the vaccine, only 8 cases of COVID infection were found, and that's how they inferred that the vaccine is giving an efficacy of 95% reduction in COVID infections over a period of 3 months. I agree that the follow-up period is short, but because it was such overwhelming benefit that they had to unblind the trial, tell the US FDA, and the US FDA had to give emergency approval. So once you get 2 doses of COVID vaccine, mRNA vaccine from Pfizer, then your risk of getting symptomatic COVID infection goes down by 95%. This is very, very clear. How did they look for COVID infection? They asked all patients about symptoms like fever, cough, breathlessness, diarrhea, vomiting, and whoever presented with symptoms, swab was done and COVID infection was confirmed. So that way, symptomatic COVID infections went down by almost 95%. This trial did not look at asymptomatic COVID infection. So they did not do COVID swabs for everybody who got the vaccine. So it did not tell us about asymptomatic COVID infection. But yes, symptomatic COVID infections went down by 95%. And you can see the efficacy was everywhere. Whether you were old, whether you were young, whether you were white, whether you were black, whether you stayed in your male, your female, whether you stayed in America, you stay in South America, everywhere the vaccine efficacy was almost 95%. So in this graph, you can see once you give the Pfizer vaccine, after 7 days after the second dose, the efficacy begins, and you can see over a period of around 105 days after the first dose, you can see only 8 cases. While if you don't take the vaccine, 162 cases. Out of those, almost 20% were severe. They required hospital admissions, and there were 1 death as well. So all severe COVID infections get taken care of once you get the 2 doses of the vaccine. So many people say that is there any protection after 1 dose of vaccine only? So that was also showed that if you take 1 dose of vaccine, you get 52% efficacy. 7 days after second dose, you get 95% efficacy. So that's why this 2 dose thing has come, because we have realized that giving 2 doses then stimulates the immunity twice, leading to higher production of neutralizing antibodies, higher production of T lymphocytes, because of which severe COVID infections go down, symptomatic COVID infections go down. This trial does not have data about asymptomatic COVID infections, but definitely there is a tremendous advantage. So you see in newspaper reports saying that one vaccine patient got COVID infection after the dose of Pfizer vaccine. Well, it is misleading. They have already said that first dose only gives 52% efficacy. So it's quite likely that between the first dose and the second dose, some person must have got infected, and that became news. So please don't fall for propaganda. This vaccine works. Partial immunity is given even with 1 dose. Best immunity is given after 2 doses. What about Moderna vaccine? It is also an mRNA vaccine, but this mRNA vaccine is developed along with the American government, National Institute of AIDS and Infectious Diseases, and the Moderna company in Massachusetts have made it. That is also a stabilized version of spike protein, which is inside a lipid bilayer, and there are two proline substitutions within the mRNA to make it more stable. These lipid nanoparticles are given at a concentration of 0.5 milligram per ml. Two doses have to be given 3 weeks apart. So for Pfizer vaccine, it is 28 days. For Moderna vaccine, it is 21 days. Just 3 days back, a full paper of the phase 3 trial was published for the Moderna vaccine as well. And again, 15,000 people received the dose. Out of 30,000, 15,000 received the vaccine, 15,000 received the placebo. So these were well conducted trials. Yes, they were done fast, but that doesn't mean that no safety was observed. Everything was just pushed through. It's not done. People have invested a lot in these phase 3 vaccine trials of Moderna as well. Again, Moderna included a lot of males, a lot of female population. Almost 50% were females. Almost 25% people were more than 65 years of age. They contain blacks, whites, Latinos, everyone. And they also had people who had comorbidities. So almost 20% of people had comorbidities like diabetes, liver, HIV, obesity. So these vaccines are now getting tested more and more about people who are old and people who are comorbidities, because we want to vaccinate those guys first because they are at highest risk of severe COVID-19. And you can see same with the Moderna vaccine: pain, erythema, swelling, lymphadenopathy. They do occur more commonly in the Moderna vaccine than the placebo, but majority of them are grade 1, grade 2, not much. So once you get a mRNA vaccine, you will find pain, erythema, swelling, lymphadenopathy, but it will be self-limiting, and within 1 or 2 days, you will feel better. What about systemic side effects? Well, again the same: headache, fatigue, myalgia, arthralgia, fever do occur, but again self-limiting. Chance of grade 3 reactions or grade 4 reaction leading to vaccine removal is very, very remote. Less than 2% people develop severe side effects. And you can see immediately after the second dose, see this. If you are taking the vaccine, your risk of getting symptomatic COVID infection 3.3 cases per 1,000 person years. If you are not taking the vaccine, 56.5 cases per 1,000 person years. So efficacy almost 95%. So efficacy awesome. What about if you take one dose? Even one dose is beneficial. You can see even after the first dose, there is partial immunity and the curves have started to diverge. So even after first dose, there is definite protection, although some infections might occur between the first and second dose, and that might get highlighted by the media, but not to worry. After the second dose, there you get lasting protection and almost 95% reduction in again symptomatic COVID-19. Even this trial did not look much into asymptomatic COVID-19. So you can see across all platforms, whether you are old, whether you are young, whether you are having diabetes or not, whether you're having comorbidities or not, this vaccine also gives robust protection. Again, I tell you, this is an mRNA vaccine, enters only into the cytoplasm, doesn't enter into the DNA, doesn't modify your DNA, doesn't get transmitted to your progeny, and it does not change your DNA structure. So it is a safe vaccine. It has been a medical miracle. So are there any other questions which need to be answered? Yes, of course. 20,000 people have received the vaccine, but in US, they are now going to vaccinate almost millions of healthcare workers first, and then millions of people more than 65 years of age. So definitely new side effects will occur. I'm not saying that everything will be fine, there will be no side effects. Yes, they will occur. New safety issues will emerge, but the chance of a new safety issue emerging is 1 in 1 lakh. So you can see the benefit definitely outweighs the risk. Will side effects emerge with longer follow-up? We don't know. As I said, both the vaccine trials have a follow-up only 3 months. The problem is the epidemic has come in only, has started only 11 months back. So we can't have a follow-up after giving a vaccine for 2 years and then just let the people suffer because of COVID. So short follow-up, definitely within 3 months after giving the vaccine, we have found that 95% of the symptomatic COVID infections have gone down. But there is no talk about asymptomatic COVID infections. Whether some people will take one dose and then vanish and then they will not come for second dose, will that help? I have already told you partial immunity will be there, but taking 2 doses is anytime better. How long will the vaccine remain effective? We don't know that as yet, but definitely considering the immunogenicity studies, looking at the neutralizing antibodies which have been developed, looking at the CD4 helper cells which have been developed, it feels that the vaccine immunity will last longer than the natural immunity to COVID. So if you have recovered from COVID and you still take a vaccine, then that vaccine induced immunity will be much powerful. Why do I say so? Because trials were done where they compared the neutralizing antibody titer in patients who had recovered from COVID and were donating convalescent plasma to the neutralizing antibody titer developing after giving COVID in a vaccine, and they found that the neutralizing antibody titer after giving a vaccine was far higher than in patients who were donating convalescent plasma. So maybe the vaccine induced immunity is far more robust than natural immunity, and that's why people are saying that even if you get COVID first, you can still get a COVID vaccine. Does the vaccine prevent asymptomatic disease? Both the mRNA vaccines looked at only symptomatic disease, so we don't know much about asymptomatic infection. What about groups of people who are not represented? Children, people less than 16 years of age, pregnant women, immunocompromised patients like transplant recipients. We still need data, but the data is coming. Lastly, they require storage at either -20 or -70 degrees Celsius. And that's why in low and middle income countries like India, giving this vaccine to remote areas or rural areas is going to be a big problem. The Moderna vaccine requires -20-degree refrigeration. Once the refrigeration is removed, it can stay in a 2 to 8 degrees Celsius refrigerator for say around 7 days, but it denatures fast, and hence for long-term storage, you need either a -20 or a -70-degree refrigerator for the Pfizer vaccine. So these are the unanswered questions. But did it teach us anything, mRNA vaccine? Yes, it provided a proof of concept that RNA vaccines are good and they can protect human beings from infectious diseases. This is cutting edge technology, and I'm sure more and more people will develop RNA vaccines for whatever new infectious diseases we tackle in the future. The amazing thing is that on Jan 10, the Chinese government released the genetic sequence of SARS-CoV-2, and here we are talking on Jan 14th, 2021, where we already have a vaccine trial done with phase 3 data published, and it is now coming into clinical use. So within 11 months, we have a vaccine and it is 95% effective. This is a medical miracle, a medical breakthrough, and it literally needs to be lauded. Are there no problems? Yes, there are problems. So as I told you, once you start vaccinating billions of people, you will find side effects. And you must have read newspaper reports where people have said that there were 3 episodes of severe anaphylactic reaction after getting the Pfizer vaccine. So people went in and looked at the science, and they felt that it is not the mRNA which is causing the anaphylactic reaction, but this is the lipid nanoparticle. It contains an excipient called PEG 2000. So all our gastroenterologist guys must be knowing that the barium also, which we give for barium meal follow through, contains PEG, and this PEG is an immunogen. It can also cause a severe anaphylactic reaction. So that's why the UK government and the US government have now come out with an advisory saying that if you have allergy or severe allergy to any medicine, food or pollen, please do not come forward and take the vaccine, because they fear that this PEG 2000 will lead to anaphylactic reaction. So those people who have very severe allergies, very severe shellfish allergy, very severe dust allergy, very severe pollen allergy, or say allergy to sulfa, allergy to combiflam, they must not be vaccinated first. To ask an allergen history is very important when you give any vaccine, even the serum vaccine. I'll come to that. We will have to ask for allergen history. And secondly, it is an alarming sign that all our nursing staff, all our staff which is going to give the vaccine to the patients, they should have Avil, Efcorlin, and sometimes epinephrine ready. How many people develop this severe anaphylactic reaction? 3 out of 4 lakh. So please put in perspective. It is 1 in 1 lakh. It is not very common. So please don't get alarmed. But those who are going to vaccinate the people have to keep Avil, Efcorlin, epinephrine ready. It should not be in the bottle. It should be ready. It can be given by syringe anytime if you develop an anaphylactic reaction. Then we come to the main thing, our vaccine which we are going to get, and that is the Serum Institute of India, Oxford and AstraZeneca vaccine. And even this vaccine published its phase 3 reports in Lancet around a month back. How does it work? It is another medical marvel. So just like the mRNA vaccine is there, this is a DNA vaccine. So as I told you, this is the SARS-CoV-2 RNA, this is the spike protein gene, and this is the spike protein. So Oxford AstraZeneca, what they do is they use this S gene, they cut this S gene from the RNA of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and put this S gene inside a vector. What is this vector? This is chimpanzee adenovirus, also known as ChAdOx1. So this is a chimpanzee adenovirus. You can see inside it is replication incompetent. So it is just a virus which cannot replicate. It can only enter a cell, but it cannot replicate. Inside that, the genetic material has been put in, which is the S gene of SARS-CoV-2, or the spike protein gene has been put inside this. What does that do? Once you inject the virus, this chimpanzee adenovirus will go and enter the cell which is there in the muscle deltoid. Whichever cell is there, it will enter inside that. You can see once it enters, this S gene will come out, enter into the DNA. Remember, it will not integrate into the human DNA. That DNA inside the nucleus will convert into mRNA. This mRNA will come out of the cytoplasm. Once inside the cytoplasm, it will do the same thing which the Pfizer vaccine is doing or the Moderna vaccine is doing, that this mRNA will get translated into spike protein or fragments of spike protein. And what will this spike protein do? It will go and attach itself on that muscle cell. Once this spike protein attaches itself, the body will realize that this is some foreign substance which is there on the muscle cell. So what will the body do? Carry this spike protein to the antigen presenting cell or the dendritic cells. They will ingest this spike protein and activate the T helper cells. Once T helper cells are activated, they will produce antibodies, and these antibodies will be ready. So once the real SARS-CoV-2 virus comes, these antibodies will immediately identify this spike protein, stop it, neutralize the virus. If that cannot be neutralized, they will bring in the activated killer cells. They will come, identify the spike protein, kill the virus. So it is just a DNA based vaccine, and the Moderna and the Pfizer one are mRNA vaccine. But what they are doing is the same thing. They are telling the cells what protein to manufacture without troubling your existent DNA at all. So there is no risk to our DNA. Nothing is going to happen to our DNA. There is no problem with our genetic code at all. So this trial was done in UK and Brazil. It took healthy volunteers between 18 to 55 years. Majority of them were healthcare workers. Elderly individuals and those with comorbidities were enrolled later on. As I said, every person either got the ChAdOx-CoV-1 vaccine at a dose of 5 into 10 raised to 10 viral particles. But the good thing they did with the serum vaccine was they did not give placebo. They gave meningococcal vaccine as placebo. So people do not understand, because as I said in the earlier trials, if you give mRNA vaccine, you develop local reaction. If you give placebo, you do not develop local reaction. So it was very easy for the people who were conducting the vaccine to know which patient got placebo and which patient got vaccine. But here, because you are giving meningococcal vaccine, which can also cause local reactions, it was very difficult to know, and it was a really good smart thing to do to really really have the blinding required for a randomized control trial. But was it without any problem? No, there are always problems when you create such a big trial. And what happened was, inadvertently, for 10 days, some of the participants in the UK who were enrolled got half dose vaccine, followed by a second dose which was given full dose after 6 weeks. So this was the low dose standard dose group. And once they realized it, they started giving standard dose first and standard dose after 6 weeks again. But they said that let's not dismiss this group, let's include this group in the final analysis. And in the pooled analysis, we had the LDSD group and the SDSD group as well. What was the primary objective? Even in this primary objective, the serum vaccine stands out, because once the vaccine was given, they told all the healthcare workers, all the elderly people and all the comorbid people that you should do a nasal swab yourself and send it by a post to our central lab every week after you get the vaccine. So here they were looking at confirmed symptomatic COVID-19 and asymptomatic COVID-19 as well. So this was the first trial, the serum trial, which looked at both asymptomatic COVID infection and symptomatic COVID infection. So once you got the serum vaccine, they told all healthcare workers that every week you have to do a self-administered swab, nasal swab and a throat swab, put it in a post box and send it to this address. And that is how they, if you have symptoms, you can call so that we can understand whether you have symptomatic COVID-19 or asymptomatic COVID-19. You can see number of patients they have enrolled is also quite a lot. Around 10,000 people have already been enrolled in these trials. The number is not as much as the mRNA trials, but it is good enough. The males, there was a female predominance because again healthcare workers, nurses, more females, so more females got this serum vaccine. Then it also included majority were whites, but even black and Asian race was there. But elderly people were only around 10% and comorbid people were only around 10%. So this trial, other disadvantage was that the elderly people and the comorbid people who were well represented in the mRNA trials were not as well represented. They were okay represented in the Serum Institute trial. So what happened was let people scratch their heads that people the vaccine efficacy was around 70%. So giving the 2 doses of the serum vaccine 6 weeks apart or 4 to 6 weeks apart led to 70% reduction in symptomatic COVID-19. But if you got the low dose first and the standard dose later, the efficacy was almost 90%. While if you got the standard dose first and standard dose after 6 weeks, the efficacy is only 60%. So the overall efficacy came down to around 72 to 72%, and people are still not able to understand why this happened. So something which happened by chance led us to stumble upon a vaccine strategy which might help us in the future. So many experts say that the first vaccine which was given low dose, it primed the immunity, and once the standard dose was given, the second immune attack was robust, because of which robust antibody titers were produced, and because of which new infections or new symptomatic COVID infections came down. Then we also looked at asymptomatic COVID, and you can see the low dose standard dose recipients did well in asymptomatic COVID-19 as well. So almost 60% reduction in asymptomatic COVID, while the standard dose recipients had only 4% reduction in asymptomatic COVID. So people have still not be able to understand what is the reason behind this, but the company says that this is mostly by chance, and in India and all over the world they are going to stick to this SDSD strategy only, full dose first and full dose after 4 to 6 weeks. So overall efficacy is around 70%, but this is the first trial which has shown that it protects against severe COVID-19, symptomatic COVID-19, and also asymptomatic COVID-19. And why asymptomatic COVID-19 needs to come down? Because we want to prevent transmission. And now everybody knows that 50% of the cases which are transmitted by people who have asymptomatic COVID-19. So by giving this vaccine, we are reducing the number of asymptomatic COVID infections and in a way reducing transmission. So we are protecting the individual, but by reducing asymptomatic COVID-19, we are protecting the society at large, and we are preventing transmission to others. So you can see there are also problems with the dosing, because some people in UK got doses at 8 weeks intervals. So first dose was given now and second dose was given 2 months later, while in Brazil it was followed the 6-week interval. So they found that even if you give it less than 6 weeks, more than 6 weeks, the protective efficacy remains the same. So even if you miss the dose on the day of the vaccination and you come 15 days later and take the vaccine will still be effective. Almost 12 weeks difference was there in some patients, and even then robust immune responses were there. So what about the efficacy analysis? The overall efficacy was 62%. 70%. If you receive the low dose first, it was 90%. They also looked at severe COVID infection and hospitalized cases. The 2 mRNA trials did not look at hospitalized cases, but the serum trial looked at hospitalized cases 21 days after the first dose, and they found that there were 10 cases hospitalized because of COVID-19, severe COVID-19, out of which 1 died. None of them was in the vaccine group. So the vaccine was completely protective against severe COVID-19, very well protective against symptomatic COVID-19, and moderate protection against asymptomatic COVID-19. And this is the real khasiyat of the Serum Institute trial, that yes, it is not as well done as the mRNA trial, but it was quite well done, and its efficacy is good enough for a country like India and the entire low and middle income setting. Why am I saying so? Because WHO has said that any vaccine above 50% efficacy is good enough. It should be brought. And here this vaccine has 70% efficacy, and it protects against both symptomatic and asymptomatic COVID infections, which the mRNA vaccines don't show. So even the follow-up for this vaccine is around 3 months. So long-term follow-up is not there. But yes, in short term, it works, and it works quite well. So you can see, once you give the vaccine 20 days after the first dose, you can see the curves are diverging, and majority of this, no symptomatic, no severe COVID-19 admissions once you get the ChAdOx vaccine. You can see 2 people developed symptomatic COVID-19 after giving the vaccine, but they did not get admitted. They did not need ICU care. Out of which the 6 people, there was 1 death as well, and they needed ICU admission. So what are the strengths of the Oxford vaccine? Large sample size, randomization, including a diverse site. So we have Brazil, which very well mirrors India, because it is also a low and middle income country. Standardization of key elements, and inclusion of participants with the low dose standard dose group and also the standard dose group, so that we have a diverse people who were enrolled into the group. What were the problems? There are limitations in every trial. This trial also has it. The problem is less than 5% of people were more than 70 years of age. Then, as I said, above 55 years of age, there are only 10 or 12% people, while comorbidities around 10 to 12% people. So this subgroup, more data is coming, it will be available, but the efficacy is good enough, and the phase 1 and phase 2 trials have shown that even in elderly people and in people with more comorbidities, the neutralizing antibody titer is robust. So I don't believe that once the data comes in, it will show something surprising. It will be effective in that group as well. So the problem was whether we give low dose or standard dose, and whether we give low dose first, then standard dose. But now governments all over the world have decided that it is a chance occurrence. We should stick to the standard dose variant to be given 4 weeks or 6 weeks apart. So that is what government of India has also accepted. So the another advantage is AstraZeneca has clearly said that until the pandemic lasts, it will not get profit from this vaccine. So it has foregone all its profit, because of which the vaccine cost has come down from $20 to $2. And you must have seen that Serum Institute of India is now sold 5 crore doses to government of India at 200 rupees per dose, which comes down to around $3. While the cost of the mRNA vaccine is anywhere between $20 to $30. So it comes down to around 2,500 to 3,000 rupees. Plus you require -20 or -70 fridge. Cold chain facilities and the infrastructure is not available in countries like India. So for low and middle income countries, where we have to vaccinate people fast, we have to vaccinate almost 130 crore people, so that they get protected from COVID. This is the best option available, and it has robust efficacy. So whether serious adverse events occurred because of the ChAdOx vaccine, and you must have seen in newspaper reports that the trial was halted for a month because one participant developed something called as transverse myelitis, which is a demyelination condition of the spine. There are other people who got a hemolytic anemia, and one got high grade fever, but that was the only case where there was a serious adverse event because of this vaccine given, and this was one case in around 8,000 people who were given this vaccine. So again, it is rare, it is not very common. 2 other additional transverse myelitis cases were found, but one was in the placebo group, so it was impossible that the serum vaccine would cause transverse myelitis, while the second case was a known case of multiple sclerosis. It was very difficult to say whether the multiple sclerosis had worsened or the vaccine, and then the scientific experts opined that this myelitis was not related to the ChAdOx vaccine. I also want to add that all the cases of COVID transverse myelitis have completely recovered, and none of them has died or landed up in the ICU. Then I'll talk about the second vaccine, a bit of a controversy, the Bharat Biotech vaccine, which has also received restricted emergency approval to be circulated all over India. This is a whole virus inactivated coronavirus vaccine. So it is like inactivated polio vaccine. So they have taken the whole virus, inactivated it, developed it on a Virocell platform, and they have done phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials, 800 subjects. They have submitted that to the government of India. Phase 3 trials, almost 22,000 people have been enrolled, and the first safety data has been found to be quite safe. They have said that the side effects are seen in less than 10% of people. The company also claims that it can work against the UK variant and the South African variant as well. I agree that a phase 3 study is needed, but if you see the fine print, government has given approval to this vaccine as a backup to the serum vaccine. So my sense is the serum vaccine will be the first vaccine which will be rolled out. If the second wave hits India, cases go out of hand, or maybe if new side effects because of serum emerge, this is kept as a backup option so that it can be used at a short notice and people can get Covaxin as a second indigenous vaccine. And we should be proud that 2 Indian companies are now going to supply almost 70% of the COVID vaccines which will be used all over the world. What about the Sputnik vaccine? Again, phase 3 trial has not been published. This is a human adenovirus vaccine. So a human adenovirus vaccine containing a spike protein of the COVID vaccine. You give the first dose, after 21 days, give the second dose, and you can see prime boost immunization. So this is a viral vector, human adenovirus, on top of which there is spike protein of the COVID vaccine. So they have said that 92% efficacy after giving 2 doses, but phase 3 trials are still ongoing. It is being manufactured in Hyderabad, and where there are phase 3 trials of the Sputnik vaccine are ongoing, but the data has not yet been published, just like the Covaxin. Then there were some disappointments as well. This was the New York Times article which said the Sinopharm vaccine, which is the Chinese vaccine which was sent to Brazil, actually has an efficacy of only 50%. While they had said that the efficacy is almost 78% when they pushed the virus vaccine into the society. So that is why phase 3 trials are needed, because the company might claim 78% efficacy, but in reality the efficacy is only 50%. So that's why now Brazil has given an order to Covishield or the serum vaccine to send additional doses for vaccination in Brazil, while Sinopharm has had a real setback and has been pushed back. So these are the few questions which came to my mind, and I will try to answer about vaccines. The question is, should I get COVID vaccine if I have had COVID-19 in the past? I think I've answered that question. The answer is yes. If you have had COVID-19 in the past, how long your immunity will last, how robust it will be, and whether you will get a second infection. It can be asymptomatic or symptomatic, we don't know. And as I said, the neutralizing antibody titer and the CD4 helper cells produced by a vaccine-induced immunity is much more robust than a natural immunity. It has been seen in convalescent plasma, where convalescent plasma donors neutralizing antibody titer and a vaccine-induced immunity antibody titer, the vaccine-induced immunity was far better. So although if you have had COVID in the past, it is always advisable that you should get a first jab of COVID vaccine. As I said, we don't know how long it lasts. Some say it lasts for 6 months. Some say natural immunity lasts for a year. Some say it might be very long lasting. But as I said, every person is different. Every person does not develop the same amount of neutralizing antibody titer after natural COVID infection. So as a matter of policy, we should be vaccinating everyone and should not be worrying whether you have neutralizing antibodies or you don't have neutralizing antibodies. As I said, plasma donors, in convalescent plasma donors, there are someone called as good donor, someone who is a bad donor. So even in convalescent plasma donors, we are making a distinction. That means people are not developing good neutralizing antibodies, although they have got COVID in the past. So in such people, definitely a COVID vaccine will help to further boost the immunity and further produce more immunity against the spike protein. Will the COVID vaccine stop transmission? As I said, if you want to stop transmission, you will have to stop asymptomatic COVID infection. Only the serum vaccine has shown ability to reduce the asymptomatic COVID infection, and that to the low dose standard dose group. The standard dose group has not shown it, so we still wait for it. But hopefully, by vaccinating 70% of the population, we will be able to develop enough immunity in 70% of the population so that asymptomatic transmission will also go down. As of now, mRNA vaccines have not reduced asymptomatic infection, or they have not studied asymptomatic infection. Serum vaccine has studied it. Does a vaccine provide long-term protection? Get a vaccine, do I get long-term, lifelong immunity? We don't know. As I said, the disease is just 12 months old, and the vaccines have been evaluated for 3 months post second dose. So we can only say that good short-term protection is there. We hope that long-term protection will be good considering the immunogenicity studies, but more data will come as the follow-ups will increase. Do I need to wear a mask? 100%. As I said, once you get a vaccine, it doesn't mean you can just go stop using mask, no social distancing, go and party. Not that way. These vaccines are not still shown to reduce asymptomatic COVID infection. So to prevent asymptomatic COVID infection, social distancing measures, using masks have to be followed. So even after getting a jab, at least for the next 6 to 9 months, you will have to practice social distancing, have to wash your hands, have to use a mask, stay as far as 6 feet away from others. That has still to be practiced. Is vaccine-induced immunity more long-lasting than natural immunity? I believe so, but we still are waiting for hard evidence to come. So what questions still remain unanswered? What are the correlates of protective immunity? What are the neutralizing antibodies? What are the CD4 cells which really protect against natural infection? How long will the immunity last? Whether it will be lifelong, whether you'll have to take a dose every 5 years or every 1 year, just like influenza, we still don't know that. Will widespread immunity limit the spread of virus in the population? That means whether asymptomatic infections will go down. I believe the Serum Institute vaccine definitely shows that data. mRNA vaccine, the data is not there. What about allergic reactions? As you know, allergic reactions are either mast cell mediated or IgE mediated, and people are studying as to what are the components, whether it is polyethylene glycol, which is there in mRNA vaccine, which is causing the anaphylactic reactions. There is also a sister of polyethylene glycol known as polysorbate 80 in the serum vaccine. So once you get a reaction to the mRNA vaccine, you cannot get any other vaccine because even polysorbate 80 can cause reaction. So currently, if you develop a reaction to a vaccine, you don't have much options, but definitely more options will come. We can at least get our vaccination drive started. And as you know, you must have received this letter from the health secretary, which has made it clear from tomorrow, India is going to start its most ambitious COVID vaccine program. And I firmly believe after going through the data, all healthcare workers, all people above 65 years of age, and all young people with comorbidities should enthusiastically take part in this vaccination drive. Those who have had anaphylactic or allergic reactions to say food, pharmaceutical products, therapies should excuse themselves. They should not come forward and get vaccinated. Those who are pregnant and lactating, they should not do it. But also, if you have active symptoms with COVID, SARS, or you have just received convalescent plasma, wait for 2 months, recover from natural infection, and then take the vaccine. But if you have had past history of SARS-CoV-2, or if you have had cardiac, neurological, pulmonary issue, if you have HIV, if you have malignancy, it doesn't stop you from getting a vaccine. Please come forward, get vaccinated. If you have HIV, even if you are immunosuppressed, come forward, get a vaccine. I must thank Adar Poonawalla and the entire scientists of Serum Institute of India who have done a phenomenal job to put out 5 crore vaccines, which will be rolled out to the healthcare staff in India. I think Pune starts vaccination tomorrow, and we are getting recognized all over the world. I saw this thing in the Wall Street Journal, which showed that COVID-19 was consuming India until everyone started wearing a mask. And they are actually praising the cities where almost even now 80% of people are wearing masks. All politicians, there has been a bipartisan support. There has been no politician who says, I don't wear a mask, just behave as you want. No, it has not happened in India. And people are scared of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, because of which this mask usage is one way because of which we have controlled the epidemic. And so we are now about to become vaccine colossus of the world. Our model is going to be followed by the entire world. Why? Because India has a robust vaccination program. We have trained guys, we have ASHA workers, we have trained nurses in PHCs, city hospitals, district hospitals, who give almost 1 billion vaccines every year. They give MMR vaccine, they give polio vaccine, they give BCG vaccine. So the infrastructure is already there. And you can see Serum Institute of India has exported 1.5 billion vaccines in the last 5 years. So you can see how big a vaccine colossus we are. It is now up to us to come together and make this vaccination drive a huge success and show the world that we can control COVID very, very efficiently. So in conclusion, COVID-19 vaccines are terrific breakthroughs, scientific breakthroughs. Everyone in India, especially healthcare workers, high risk, municipal healthcare workers, policemen, army men, people with more than 65 years of age, people with comorbidities, come forward, vaccinate yourself. The drive vaccines are safe and effective. Please don't fall for propaganda. Take the vaccine. First, the vaccine will be given to healthcare workers, then to elderly people with comorbidities. I am saying there will be some unforeseen adverse events, but they will be rare. It will be 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10 lakh. Do not go by newspaper reports saying 5 cases here, 2 cases there. Remember, we will have 5 cases when we will vaccinate 50 lakh people. Remember that. So it will be rare. The benefit outweighs the risk. And there is indeed light at the end of a dark tunnel. Maybe we can go back to our normal lives in the second half of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dravid. That was an excellent presentation on COVID vaccine. Well, here, Dr. Dravid, we have a list of questions here. So if you're ready, we can go one by one.
Yes, because I'm not yet seeing the questions.
No, I have written it. I'll just let you know. mRNA vaccine does not affect the DNA. So does it mean the other vaccine has effect on the DNA?
No, not at all. I've already explained that none of the vaccine, neither does the serum vaccine, nor does the mRNA vaccine do anything to your DNA. It just instructs your cells to produce a particular protein which will institute an immune response, and that immune response will target the real disease. So it is just molecular mimicry at play. The DNA is not harmed, it will not be transmitted.
Absolutely. Sir, as you know, we have 7% of population who are suffering from allergic rhinitis. So they are allergic to various things like pollens, dust mites, so many things. So what about the vaccination for these people?
See, first, if you have a grade 3, grade 4 allergic reaction, then excuse yourself. But there are majority of the people who have allergic rhinitis is mild. It's not severe allergic rhinitis. So people who have severe allergies, those people who have severe allergies to drugs, severe allergies to pollen, that means once they take that drug or they eat shellfish, the entire body becomes red. They can't, there is facial puffiness, there is mucosal irritation. Those people, those who have mild allergies can very well come forward, tell the vaccinating staff that I have mild allergy to this, so that they will be ready and take the vaccination. It's not that every small allergy you have to worry about.
Absolutely. There's one question from Dr. Panchal. It was very difficult to get the mRNA vaccine basically when it was mutating. So how this vaccine was developed in such a short time?
As I said, it's a medical miracle. See, the vaccine is developed in 11 months, but the science is going on for 30 years. That lady was telling about mRNA since 1990. It's just that COVID gave her the platform that we can manufacture such vaccines on scale in such a short time. So as I said, it's a medical miracle. Tomorrow, we are now ready for the next pandemic. Tomorrow, if this virus mutates and we feel that this vaccine is not working, which I don't think is a problem, these vaccine will work against mutants as well. But if we develop a bad mutant, then we have the infrastructure ready to go back and tweak the vaccine and start doing it again. So this has been a medical miracle. This was 30 years in the waiting. That's why it could be finished in 11 months. As I always say, that a doctor studies for 30 years to give the best opinion to the patient. The patient might say, sir, you gave opinion, but you charged 1,000 rupees. But that opinion took 30 years of experience to give it. So similarly, this vaccine took 30 years of hard work to get it out in 11 months.
Yeah, yeah. One of my colleague, doctor, he is allergic to sesame seeds, basically.
Yeah.
But his allergy is almost, I would say, grade 3, grade 4. He lands up in ICU. So
Yeah, I think that he should wait. He should wait. He should excuse himself.
okay.
And if he has severe allergies, he should wait till the vaccination drive begins and majority of the people get vaccinated. Say around, see, we are going to vaccinate 3 lakh people on day 1. That is what the government has set a target.
Yes.
So within a week, we will have 2 million people vaccinated. So we will have enough data to say that whether it is safe or no. And if you find that it is safe, not many people are developing reaction to it, go ahead and take it. But again, if severe allergy, wait. More data is coming.
Sir, you told that LD, combination of LD and SD, okay, gives almost 90% results.
Yeah.
And SD and SD gives 70%. So why the government has approved for SD and SD? Why not go for LD and SD?
Because the vaccine manufacturers feel that this was by chance, because once we roll it out, they feel that the efficacy will be same for the SD group as well. But government is keeping a watch, and if they find that vaccine is say less in amount, more people need to be vaccinated, there is still a way that they can go back to the LD-SD variant. As of now, to start off, it is SD-SD, and I'm sure that it is by chance the SD-SD version will also give good immunity.
Okay. Dr. Smita wants to know that when we should take a vaccine after COVID infection.
If you are if 4 to 8 weeks after recovery from COVID, you should take the vaccine.
After 4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8 weeks. So if you have had say infection today, today is 15th of January, wait till 15th of February. After that, once you feel better, go ahead, take the vaccine.
Okay. And what about the vaccination for patients with malignancy who have received chemo, radiotherapy?
Children less than 18, pregnancy and lactating women, as of now, no vaccination.
Okay.
Because again, if you are pregnant and lactating, you are young, you hardly have any comorbidities, so your number will be last. Those who have had chemotherapy, those who have HIV positive, those who are on kidney and dialysis, those who are chronic liver failure, heart disease, DCMP, everybody, just come forward, get the vaccine once your number comes.
Okay. And one Dr. Bansal wants to know about his patient is suffering from myotonia dystrophica. So can he go ahead with the vaccination?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
And what about the lady planning for pregnancy?
If she's planning for pregnancy, she's young, so her number will be a bit later. Okay. Until then, we will have data about pregnancy and lactating women. Pregnant, lactating women and children, there is hardly any data from any vaccine. So as of now, we are concentrating only on healthcare workers, comorbidities, and elderly.
Elderly ones. Okay. What about the vaccine efficacy for Britain and South African strain?
I think it will work. See, the whole idea is that the UK strain and the South African strain have 17 or more mutations at the receptor binding zone of the spike protein. But the vaccine contains the entire spike protein. So there will be antibodies developing against the rest of the zones in the spike protein as well. So even if one receptor binding zone mutates, rest of the entire protein is still available. Antibodies will still recognize those zones. They will still destroy it. So I fail to believe why this vaccine will not work against the UK variant or the South African variant or any other variant which comes to forth. It will work. I think there is just too much disinformation being spread. It will work, and there have been currently not a single case reported of viral escape. That means the vaccine was given and still the virus escaped the immunity and developed symptomatic disease. There is not a single case reported as of now. So we are waiting for data. Tomorrow, if we find that there are more cases of viral escape to vaccine-induced immunity seen, we will tweak the vaccine. Already things have already started. I'm sure Serum Institute, Moderna, Pfizer will have that ready. But first, let's start the vaccination and to see how much protection is being given. I'm sure there is good protection available.
Absolutely. Dr. Kadam wants to know which vaccine are we going to get?
Serum.
Serum vaccine. Right? And what about patients suffering from viral infections like herpes?
Uh,
Can we?
if you have active viral infection, wait for 4 weeks. If you have had viral infections in the past, no problem. Go ahead, take it.
Okay. And when are the kids going to get vaccinated?
Do the kids need vaccination against COVID because they have such low complication rate and such low mortality, say 1 in 10,000 or something like that? So I think it will be the last to be vaccinated.
Okay. And patients who are shown anaphylactic reaction to certain drugs, so should they go for the vaccination?
No, if you have had grade 3, grade 4 anaphylactic reaction to any drug, any pollen, any food, or any other item, I think you should just wait, let the vaccination drive start, finish, let many people get vaccinated, and then we will have better data available.
Okay. So the last question now is: do we need to keep any gap or duration between two different vaccines, one COVID vaccine and other vaccinations?
See, once you stick to one vaccine,
Hello, can you hear me, sir? Dr. Dravid? Dr. Dravid, can you hear me?
now after 4 to 6 weeks, get the serum vaccine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Dravid. I think almost all the questions have been answered regarding this. Now, I'll go ahead with, I'll invite Dr. Pawan Salve, our additional MOH, PCMC, and Dr. Varsha
Till
Tange, madam.
March or April. So we are now here with 2 vaccines only. The serum vaccine, which has a phase 3 data. So you will get a serum vaccine today, serum vaccine after 4 weeks. If you can delay, if you get delayed up to 12 weeks, it will work. Take it. But don't take serum vaccine first and then Covaxin the second. No. If you take Covaxin, once the data comes from phase 3, Covaxin first dose, Covaxin second dose. But of doses, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Dravid. Thank you so much. I'll invite now Dr. Varsha Dange, madam, and Dr. Pawan Salve, sir, additional MOH, PCMC, to give about update about the COVID
Hello?
vaccine in PCMC. Hello.
Sir, namaste. Sir, thank you.
There is another question. If we can give other vaccines along, I don't think so. There is a problem.
Yes,
We can give it.
we can give it. Okay, sir. Yeah, Dr. Pawan Salve, sir.
Sir, thank you very much. I am a PCB and all its committee for arranging so nice lecture about COVID vaccination and inviting very well studied and very Dr. Dravid, who has given a detailed information about COVID vaccination. Despite working for so long, 8 to 9 months about in COVID, I didn't have that much detailed information about the COVID vaccination, which I had today because of this lecture. I will again thank Dr. David sir and Dr. Bhalirav sir and everybody from IMPCB, Dr. Mate sir for this lecture, because of this will help each and every one of us to clear our doubts about COVID vaccine. About the PCMC has been preparing for fighting COVID-19 from since it beginning in the February, March 20. We had been fighting along with the help of IMA PCB, Dr. Bhalira sir, Dr. Kama sir, Dr. Mate sir and his team. And again now in COVID vaccination, we will need help of IMA PCB and each and every member and each and every hospital of their colleagues. So we were directed to first take a dry run. We took a dry run in our Jijamata hospital earlier, around 15 days back. Now we were first instructed last week to take.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Am I
Yeah.
audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we were 2 days back. We were again instructed to decrease our sites to 8, out of which one is Jijamata Hospital, YCMH, Yamunanagar Hospital, Talera Hospital, our new Bosri Hospital. Then again we Pimpri Nilak Dispensary, Kasarwa Dispensary, various 8 sites we have planned. We have received registration from 70,800 registration we have received from healthcare workers. We have collected vaccine doses around 15,000. Then we are ready with that. One thing is very important is we are again very much worried about, like everybody else, about AFI. Now the Dravids have cleared that 95%, 90% of the AFI will be local and not that serious. So that clears the most of the doubts. And again now after his lecture, I will have to have vaccine myself also if I get a chance. So I thank each and everybody. But we are having a drive for only one day on the 16th. Next session will be guided by the government of Maharashtra. We are bound by the guidelines we receive from the government of Maharashtra, and we are going to implement them as far as possible. And I request each and every doctor to participate in this vaccination drive in PCMC area, IME PCB. If anybody is remaining to be registered, again we will, whenever we get a chance, again we should, because there was a very slow response to register PCMC area. Now we have very less register as expected earlier. We were expecting more than 35,000 registrations, but we have now registered only 70,000, out of which 3,000 or 3,000 from PCMC area, the PCMC department. So there less nation. Let's expect now. Everybody of us has cleared his doubt. So we get more and more people registered. We get more and more people uh, vaccinated. One thing I want to ask David sir uh, is this vaccine going to protect from seasonal flu? Because that is the question which each and every will ask. And how should we? He has cleared most of the doubts about vaccination, AFI. But are there any uh, allergic reaction related to coagulation disorders or blood disorders? Because that has not been covered right now in a lecture. Because if there is any coagulation disorders or clotting disorders, blood diseases, are there any issues about that?
Yeah, Dr. Dravid, you can you hear me, Dr. Dravid?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Salve has a few questions. One
Yes, sir.
is it effective? The vaccine, is it effective for the seasonal flu also?
No, sir. This vaccine is not effective for seasonal flu. For seasonal flu, you have the inactivated influenza vaccine. But the problem is now we fear that COVID will replace seasonal influenza. So if that is the case, maybe you will get COVID vaccine and it will protect against seasonal COVID flu.
The other is blood disorders or blood coagulation disorders, which are in most of the people we right now find. So is it going to harm? What are the reactions expected in our earlier trials?
No, sir, I don't think so. There will be any issue. If you have severe bleeding disorders, severe coagulation disorders, then only there is a problem. As I said, if you have severe allergies, severe hypersensitivity, that you take, say, shellfish or eat fish and you will end up in the ICU, then there is a problem. Mild coagulation problems, mild bleeding disorders, controlled allergies, there should not be a problem. There is too much of disinformation being circulated. If you
Because
have severe allergies, don't come
the
or
because
wait.
senior citizens, which we are supposed to cover, and they might be having kind of a disease related to stroke or other things, or blood related or hypertension related bleeding diseases. Can we cover? Is there any limitation to that?
I don't think so, sir. There is any limitation. Having a majority of the patients are on aspirin, and aspirin, giving one dose of IM injection in a person who is just taking aspirin should not be a problem. If you are taking oral anticoagulants like warfarin
or like say Xarelto or newer oral anticoagulation, I think you can put a question in and just tell them that if you're taking it, maybe you can stop it for 2 or 3 days, let the effect go away, then give the vaccination. After the vaccination, you restart it. So I don't think so there should be a problem. Vaccinating elderly people is must. Only look out for warfarin, oral anticoagulation like Xarelto, which can have theoretically, sir, it is theoretical. It's quite possible that you will end up giving the vaccine and majority of the people will have no issues because so many of them got the Moderna vaccine, so many of them got the Pfizer vaccine in US. There have been no reports where people who were on aspirin and warfarin had a problem. The only problem which came out was severe allergy and sometimes Bell's palsy. So
Oh,
we might see, yeah, Bell's palsy. So you might see some unusual side effects. I agree, there might be unusual side effects. And then people will make a huge hue and cry about it. But remember, that will be 1 in 1 lakh or 1 in 10 lakh. So that will be rare. The benefit definitely outweighs the risk. So as a country, if you want to prevent the second wave or imported cases or variants, we have to really embrace the vaccination program, help the government, and go ahead and vaccinate yourself. If we don't go ahead and vaccinate ourselves, the society is not going to listen.
absolutely.
The one thing I will like to have, we have been discussing with lot many people about this issue. I realized that I should ask one question, which you have mentioned the word hue and cry. Now there is once we are taking this vaccination first times, this is a trial which we are going all India basis, online basis. It is pre listed. Everything is monitored by through
Yes,
digital technology, and
absolutely.
as it is as good things are monitored digitally or with digital technology online, our mistakes and other things will be captured in that way. So
Yes.
what I am very much worried कि our good things may not be covered appropriately by the our media and other friends. So how we
No,
should
sir.
face as a
No, sir.
strategy?
We will highlight it. We are there for it. I am definitely going to highlight it. So no
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very
Association is
much
there for
thankful
this.
to everybody, PCB, Dr. David, and your presentation was very good. We are given a very good information, which has built huge confidence amongst us. Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
Balevara sir.
Yeah,
And
Thank you.
Dr. Salve, sir.
yes, sir.
Just one question to you is our people would like to know what is the procedure of this vaccination for PC in PCMC?
PCMC, since last 2 to 3 months, we are following with all our hospitals, doctors to register themselves online. We have created a registration. Then on we are going to vaccinate only the healthcare workers who have registered with us.
How they
Government
are
of
going to
India.
receive? Are they going to receive the message in their mobile?
Yes, yes. Dr. Tange will brief you about the procedure right now.
Okay.
So she will give you a detailed information about register, how you are going to get messages, how you are going to report to the nearby hospital. You will be vaccination, they will be waiting. She will give you guide detailed information about that. I will hand over to Dr. Tange. Thank you.
Yes, please. Welcome, Dr. Varsha Dange, madam.
Uh,
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, madam. Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. Very clear.
Yes. In Municipal Corporation, according to the geographical area and the eight like administrative wards and eight hospital zones, we have session sites or we have created session sites at a New Jijamata Rugnalay in New Jijamata Hospital in Pimpri, then Yamuna Nagar Hospital in Yamuna Nagar area, then New Bhosri Hospital in Bhosri area, Vysim Hospital in Vysim, Pimpri area again, Pimpri Nilak Dispensary for like near around Pimpri Sodagar and like Thergaon area, Kasarwadi Dispensary for whole of the Sangvi area, Talera Hospital for Chinchwad area, and ESIS Hospital for Akurdi area. Why I am enumerating these sites? Because these are the beginning sites or the launching sites where we will be doing vaccination on 16th, that is tomorrow. The
Tomorrow.
vaccination session sites will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As everyone knows, the central government has come up with this CoWIN app, and we have registered all the healthcare workers, FLWs, and all other people who will be getting vaccinated in the phase 1 on this COVID app. Through this app, we will have to select the beneficiaries, or the district will be selecting the 100 beneficiaries for each session site. So tomorrow at these 8 session sites, 800 people will be receiving the vaccine. uh, Unfortunately, the system of this COVID application is like this, that the beneficiary who is supposed to get vaccine will be receiving an SMS 48 hours prior. But unfortunately, since tomorrow it's first day, the site is having certain problems. So because of that, the beneficiaries have been listed, or beneficiaries have been allocated the session sites, but the SMSs have not yet calculated or been given all these beneficiaries. So if we see, we will wait till 6 p.m. If at all the system is able to send the message to all the beneficiaries, let's see. Otherwise, after 6 p.m., all those beneficiaries who are going to get vaccinated tomorrow will receive a phone call from our
Okay.
sisters or staff nurses. So that
Department.
is
Yeah.
the first. We do not know, sir, which 100 beneficiaries have been allocated at first go. So once we receive the beneficiary list, that beneficiary list will consist of all. See, the Covin app has actually tagged pin codes to the session site. So the session site will actually get receive. It will tag, or it will select the beneficiaries pertaining to its area, are close by through a pin code site. So pin codes. So like Sangvi people, they might receive the, they might have the beneficiaries from Sangvi area, which will have the similar pin code. So it is not like this that private people will not, only government officials or government people will receive. It is not like this. Random selection is there. So the district is going to select, and they are going to give us the beneficiary list. Once this list is going to be there, we will call the all those people uh, to come and get the vaccination shot by tomorrow morning. The session sites will be open from 9 to 5 p.m. Because we have to follow the COVID appropriate behavior and social distancing and all that stuff. So that's why all the beneficiaries will get a stipulated time span or a range of time, so that for half an hour or 1 hour, in that time they can come. This does not mean that if they are not able to come till 4:30 or 4:50 p.m., then also, sir, they will be coming, or we will vaccinate them. And after 5 p.m., we will have to end the session, because once we vaccinate all these people, we need to observe them for more than or at least minimum 30 minutes. So this is the government norm. So for this, we request all the beneficiaries who will receive the phone call today to actually visit the vaccination site before 4 p.m., from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. So
Okay.
this is the procedure we are supposed to follow. And PCMC had done one innovative idea, that we have this PCMC Smart Sarthi app. So we had actually asked to register all the healthcare workers, all the hospitals, all the dispensaries with their beneficiary list on this Smart Sarthi app. The registration on this Smart Sarthi app is still open. We haven't closed it down. We will check it again. Like after sir's excellent presentation, if few people they haven't registered, they would like to register. So we are keeping the like registration on the Smart Sarthi app open. Any one person can download this Smart Sarthi app on his mobile, and then he can fill his information, and he can fill other people's information too. So one person can actually fill up n number of
Yes.
app. So this was a bit misconception, so that we can actually go ahead with it. A few of the people, they were asking, like, we have registered, but we do not know that whether our registration has been done or not. See, all these people, if they have registered on Smart Sarthi app, at last when they have submitted the responses, the message has thank you, or your submission has been successful. That message they have actually received. We have the data. If at all IMA PCB permits, and all the people, if they are permitting, then we can give that data to IMA PCB, so that those who want to check which whether our is there or not, whether all our people have been registered on that or not. So that data we are ready to share, sir, with IMAPCB. We can depute someone to sit there and just go ahead and check whether their registration has been done or not. It is impossible for us to do this because, sir, because of short of we don't have that much amount of manpower, and like scrolling through 17,000 or 18,000 data for one or two people, that's not possible for us. So this is all about this. Secondly, we are very nicely equipped with the cold chain points. I feel nowhere in the world the way cold chain is maintained in government system, no other system is good enough to maintain that cold chain system. We are having temperature data loggers also. UNDP, United Nations Development Program, they have supported. They are supporting us with this. So all our medical officers, they can see the temperature of their ILRs and deep freezer on their mobiles. So this is the routine practice since 1 year which we are doing. So nobody has to have anything in their mind regarding cold chain maintenance. This is one thing. Second thing is this, like we are equipped to deal with all adverse events following immunization. Our staff nurses have been trained. Rather than a doctor giving the injection, we know that all these staff nurses, they are how nicely they can give the injections. Injection site is preferably deltoid. So any they haven't specified which arm or something like that, so we are supposed to give it on the deltoid. We are going to go ahead with that. And waiting for 30 minutes, we are going to make it compulsory at least tomorrow. No, it is going to be a compulsory thing, so that if at all something happens, we are well equipped. All the emergency drugs, emergency trays, oxygen cylinder, or resuscitation equipments, everything will be ready at those session sites. Beds have been arranged. Even we have allocated a few of the beds in and ICU beds also. We have kept them separately blocked for AFI cases if at all they happen in YCMH. Any other private hospital, if they would like to come up and give the support to us, like maybe Aditya Birla is there, Nirame Hospital is there, some other Sterling Hospital is there. If at all they are giving us the support to handle these AEFIs along with us, they are welcome, sir. This would be our request. We are having 108 ambulances. Along with that, there are ambulances from our PCMC, and then vehicles are ready for transportation, so no worries about transportation either. So this way we are fully equipped. The IC material about whatever sir has said, we are displaying it at the session site, so people can have a look about that. Even the fact sheets about or the information sheet about Covishield vaccine, we are displaying at the session site. So these are the things we are going to go ahead with. If any other questions, we are open for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dange,
Sir,
madam.
may I add something?
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Sir, basically, we are now embarking on the world's largest adult immunization program.
Absolutely.
Remember that. We are now going to create history. So
Yes.
we will be vaccinating around 75 to 80 crore Indians in the next 6 months.
We are a part
And
of it now, yeah.
yes, and we are a part of history. I am
Yes.
sure there will be some teething problems, but we have to be patient. The government has taken a big step. Private players have chipped in. What we can do is be patient, participate in this, and set an example for the whole world, because the whole world is watching India. What happens in India?
Yes. Very
What
true.
happens in India will be replicated in almost 70% of the low and middle income countries all over the world. So let's start off and be patient. There will be issues, there will be problems first 6-7 days before the system really starts running. But remember, we could have 130 crore Aadhaar cards. So we can very easily vaccinate 70-80 crore Indians and we can create history.
Very true.
Uh,
Very true.
that's
Yes.
true. That's a very true thing, sir. And secondly, sir, we should not forget that in our PCMC and the whole India, we have actually established success story when we did our measles rubella vaccination. That was not a
Yes.
small job. In
Yes.
Yes.
our PCMC, we had actually vaccinated more than 6.5 lakh children from 0 to 15 years of age. सो दॅट टास्क वी हॅव हे शिवधनुष्य आपण खूप चांगल्या पद्धतीने पेललेलं आहे सर. मला
Yes.
वाटतंय आपण हे सुद्धा छान पद्धतीने करूयात आणि हा
नक्कीच.
ऐतिहासिक क्षण असणार आहे सगळ्यांसाठीच सर. सो
Yeah.
वी आर व्हेरी वेल इक्विप्ड अँड वी रिक्वायर एव्हरीबडी सपोर्ट आणि
Support.
पेशन्स फक्त एक आपल्यासाठी कीवर्ड असणार आहे किंवा फार महत्वाची गोष्ट असणार आहे.
Yes, yes.
सो लेट्स गो अहेड विथ दॅट.
Madam, few questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Will this vaccination drive will be working on Sundays?
Sir, we haven't actually taken a decision about this. We will wait. We will see the response. And once 16th we have scheduled first session. In next week there would be 2 or 3 sessions. And once we see how the response is or how our system gets very well versed with it, then if at all on demand for the private, I understand all other professional things, we will start on Sundays also, but yet there are no government guidelines to start it on Sunday, so we'll
Okay.
just wait for a while. Yes, sir.
Okay. And one question was that if a person gets a call and he doesn't make it on that day of vaccination, so
Yes,
is
sir.
there any other option for him?
Yes, sir. We see the PCMC is only like district is going to schedule. So all those beneficiaries who are not receiving the vaccines, or they are saying no on, or they are not turning up to the center for the vaccination, all those lists will be with us. So we will be rescheduling them after a certain amount of or certain period of time, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, madam. I think we have really completed all our doubts about COVID vaccine, the procedure, the various types of vaccine. Thank you very much, Dr. Amit Dravid sir, for an excellent presentation. Thank you, Dr. Pawan Salve sir, for your guidance. Dr. Varsha Dange madam for updating about the vaccination in PCMC area. I would request all the members who have not registered, please download the PCMC Smart Sarthi app. PCMC Smart Sarthi app, and then you can find, they go on the feed column there, and then from there you can register it. There is no need for all the person to download. From one app download, you can register all your staff members also, all your staff members in the hospital from just one download. Okay, so maybe 15, 20, whoever their staff members, you can download it. Just the last note which I would say, this Makar Sankranti, but the always we say that Tilgul gya god god bola, but this time we will say COVID vaccine gya ani god god bola. I wish a very happy jab to everybody for tomorrow, and thank you. My sincere thanks to our PCB Executive Committee, our President Dr. Suhas Mate sir, our patron Dr. Kamath sir, Dr. Devdar sir, and all other for this webinar, for the support. My sincere thanks to Mr. Abhijit Kulkarni, who is the web platform event management, Geneka Technology. Thank you very much, Abhijit. And last but not the least, all you delegates who have attended this program and given us the support. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. David. Thank you. Thank you, madam.